The UK's ultimatum to Israel this Tuesday night, unless it agrees to end the appalling situation in Gaza.
The suffering must end.
As Gaza quickly spirals into famine.
This is unlike anything we have seen in this century.
Deadly mass shooting in Midtown Manhattan, the victims and why the gunman seemingly targeted NFL headquarters. Plans up in the air, why Air Canada's flight attendants might strike, and the advice to worried travelers. Plus, date night vibes?
With Katy Perry? That's crazy.
A pop superstar and a former prime minister enter the chat.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. There is more pressure on Israel tonight. The UK has joined France in saying it will formally recognize Palestine as a state. The British Prime Minister says the catastrophic failure of aid to Gaza has led to starving babies and children too weak to stand. Images, he says, that will stay with us for a lifetime.
This is the moment to act. So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
He is calling on Israel to agree to a ceasefire, commit to a two-state solution, and allow the UN to resume aid distribution in Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister tonight accused the UK of rewarding Hamas. The Secretary General of the United Nations said today the facts are undeniable. Gaza is on the brink of famine. What's needed, the UN's Food Security Agency says, is immediate action. Redmond Shannon has our top story and a warning some of the content is disturbing.
This is as close as some Gazans may come to seeing food today. Those lucky enough to live near a drop zone fight. Sometimes literally, to get a box or even just a tin. Children got hurt, they were crushed. The tragedy here is unbelievable, says this man. He says much more aid is needed to reverse the disaster unfolding in Gaza. Aid agencies agree.
This is unlike anything we have seen in this century. It reminds us of previous disasters in Ethiopia or Biafra in the past century.
On Tuesday, a United Nations-backed review of the food situation in Gaza said the worst-case scenario of famine is currently playing out in the Gaza Strip. That isn't a formal declaration of famine, but a warning that immediate action is needed. Not symbolic airdrops, but hundreds of trucks a day, in addition to the increase allowed by Israel since Sunday.
We have not gotten the authorization, the permission to move in the volumes that we've requested.
We are not limiting. We are facilitating for everyone to help. The situation is tough. But there is a lie, and the lie is the starvation policies.
Despite Israel's denials, the UK became the latest country to ramp up pressure, saying it will follow France and recognise the state of Palestine in September unless
the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
It seems extremely unlikely that the Israeli government will U-turn and commit to a two-state solution. So if Keir Starmer follows through, it would mean that two G7 nations, Britain and France, will recognise Palestine in September. The British Prime Minister today spoke with his Canadian counterpart Mark Carney, but tonight Canada's official position remains that a two-state solution is the only way to achieve peace, while not committing to a time frame. Donna?
Okay, Redmond Shannon in London tonight. Thank you. Toronto police are investigating hateful graffiti found in the city's West End. Last week, residents discovered red swastikas spray painted throughout the neighborhood on garbage bins and power poles. Police were called back to the area today after Global News spotted more graffiti on garbage cans. The officer in charge of a Canadian Army brigade linked to a Facebook group which allegedly featured hateful content has stepped down. In a statement to Global News, the Department of National Defense confirmed Colonel James McKay resigned last week as military investigations into the social media group continue. McKay led the 33rd Canadian Brigade group, including the Cameron Highlanders of Ottawa. Members of that unit allegedly started the Blue Hackle Mafia Facebook group, posting explicit photos and inappropriate comments. The page has since been removed. In New York City, investigators are piecing together what happened after a gunman killed 4 people, including a police officer, at a Midtown Manhattan office building last night. The gunman, who took his own life, walked into the building carrying a rifle, and a note he was carrying suggests he was targeting the National Football League, which has offices in the building. Jackson Proskow reports on how the shooting unfolded and who was killed.
The bullet holes and shattered glass are still visible in Midtown Manhattan, 24 hours after a gunman walked into a skyscraper with an assault rifle and opened fire, killing 4.
The building's security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. He then shoots a woman who took cover behind a pillar and proceeds through the lobby, spraying it with gunfire.
The suspect, 27-year-old Shane Tamura from Las Vegas, eventually made his way to the 33rd floor and opened fire again before taking his own life. As the shots rang out, workers barricaded themselves inside offices.
4 officers came out and they were carrying what looked like to me another officer that looked injured.
Tamura was a former high school football player with a history of mental illness. Police say he drove across the country to target the headquarters of the National Football League, but ended up in the wrong elevator. In a note found on his body, he allegedly claimed to have a degenerative brain disease caused by playing the sport.
Yes, he did have a note on him. The note alluded to that he felt he had CTE, a known brain injury for those who participate in contact sports. He appeared to have blamed the NFL for his injury.
The 4 victims include a security guard, an executive at Blackstone, and NYPD officer Didarul Islam, an immigrant from Bangladesh whose wife is pregnant and expecting their 3rd child. Officers stood at attention during a dignified transfer of Islam's body Monday.
A very painful moment, as you could expect.
New York's medical examiner confirmed they would test the suspect's brain as part of an autopsy to confirm whether he had CTE. Answers are unlikely to erase the pain of the deadliest mass shooting in New York City in 25 years. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
The latest trade deadline President Donald Trump has imposed on Canada is Friday. He has threatened to put 35% tariffs on Canadian goods if no deal is reached by then. Knowing Trump, it could be a negotiating tactic. But as Mackenzie Gray reports, it is instructive to look at how he's handled other countries.
A positive sign to avoid another escalation in Donald Trump's trade war.
The overall tone of the meetings was very constructive.
A sentiment shared by Chinese officials after talks with U.S. cabinet members, saying there's likely going to be a delay on new U.S. tariffs for China that were set to come into force in August. But there's no sign a similar reprieve is coming for countries like Canada.
I think the trade deals are working out very well, hopefully for everybody, but for the United States, they're very, very good.
With Trump's Friday deadline looming for a 35% tariff on non-free trade goods, the Carney government is tight-lipped on how negotiations are going.
We're in the middle of negotiations right now with the United States, really intense negotiations, and as the Prime Minister has often said, it's not good practice to negotiate in public.
While the negotiations might be intense, there's no clarity on how they're going. Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc is heading to Washington Tuesday night, but his office wouldn't say who he's meeting with, as the Trump administration is now threatening additional tariffs.
President Trump is going to come out in the next 2 weeks with his pharmaceutical policy, and it is going to be higher. Basically, if you are not building your plant in America where we pay for pharmaceuticals, you are going to pay a massive tariff.
Pharmaceuticals is a $71 billion industry in Canada, according to the Innovation Department. Additional tariffs on drugs like energy and auto parts likely to cause significant economic pain.
I would suggest the tariff rate should be zero. It certainly needs to be across the 49th parallel much lower than anywhere else in the world.
The most punitive Trump tariff, 50% on steel and aluminum, Donna, which the Prime Minister labeled as illegal and unjustified in early June. But 55 days after it was brought into force, Canada has still yet to retaliate against the Americans.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray, thank you. A Global News investigation has uncovered documents that contradict claims made by the Public Safety Minister. Gary Anandasangari said he was helping a constituent when he lobbied federal officials to let a man Canadian officials say was a terror group member resettle in Canada. But court documents suggest the woman is not actually his constituent. Mercedes Stevenson reports.
Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangari claimed he was just helping a constituent after coming under fire for letters he wrote lobbying national security officials to let a man Canadian authorities say is a member of a terrorist group immigrate to Canada. Anandasangari told Global News he was the member of parliament for the man's wife and thus doing his duty, noting that a constituent, a Canadian citizen with a Canadian child, would want to reunite her family in Canada is not unusual. Anandasangari's claim the woman is a constituent is directly contradicted by documents obtained by Global News. Immigration applications, cell phone bills, tax returns, and other documentation in federal court files suggest the wife lives in Markham, Ontario, not Scarborough, where Anandasangari is the MP. The woman's own lawyer confirmed to Global News that she did not live in Anandasangari's riding and didn't recall ever being his constituent. Asked about the discrepancy, the minister's office provided a new explanation. A spokesperson told Global News a known constituent introduced the family to Anandasangari. They also claimed the letters he wrote before joining cabinet were not an unusual form of help, in a case where that person's MP was already a cabinet minister, portraying the issue as confusion instead of new information. Writing, this should have been made clearer in the minister's statement of July 14, 2025. But the minister had implied the woman was his constituent more than once.
This is part and parcel of the work that every member of parliament does. And in this particular case, I was executing my duties as a member of parliament.
Political scientist Nelson Wiseman says the minister has been misleading.
He gave the distinct impression that he was representing a constituent, which is part of the job of an MP. But this constituent is not his constituent. So that stinks.
Raising the question of what the Prime Minister knew when he defended Anandasangari as being transparent. The Prime Minister's office would only say, no comment.
No offense to the Prime Minister, but I don't think that solves anything in this.
Which leaves Canadians to wonder whether the Prime Minister knew that Anandasangari's public claims may have been inaccurate. Donna?
Mercedes Stevenson in Ottawa, thanks. An unclear flight path ahead for Canada's largest airline. Coming up, what a strike at Air Canada might mean for passengers. This could be a sign of the times. The Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto says it's received unprecedented interest from job seekers. A record-breaking 54,000 people have applied online this year to work at the CNE. It has just over 5,000 seasonal jobs to offer. Most of the fair's workers are usually young people, and this year's surge likely reflects the tough job market. Statistics Canada says the national unemployment rate for Canadians aged 14 to 24 sits around 14%. More turbulence may be ahead for Canada's largest airline. Air Canada's 10,000 flight attendants are voting on whether to go on strike next month. The union and Air Canada have been in contract talks since the start of this year. And Gaviola looks at what it could mean for travelers.
To strike or not to strike? That is the question before 10,000 unionized Air Canada and Rouge flight attendants. A yes vote puts them in a position to strike as early as August 16th.
Hopefully, as it did in the pilots' strike, which went right to the last minute, they will come to a decision. But if they don't, it will cause havoc.
Both the airline and the union say this strike vote is part of negotiations and won't necessarily lead to disruption. In a statement to Global News, Air Canada says it's focused on the bargaining process and reaching a fair and equitable collective agreement with flight attendants. The Canadian Union of Public Employees says key issues include higher wages for junior staff and compensation for unpaid work. For people unwilling to take any chances with travel plans, analysts recommend shelling out for a fully refundable flight on another airline.
It's not going to be cheap, but it's an insurance policy that if you must travel.
And do your research on what is and isn't covered by insurance.
It's not just the flight that gets canceled. You may have booked a cruise. You may have booked a non-refundable Airbnb. All these things you'd be out the money if you couldn't get there.
All of this as Air Canada reveals the impact of a plunge in demand for travel to the U.S. Air Canada's second quarter profit plummeted to $182 million. That is down from $410 million in the same quarter last year. It was, according to CEO Michael Russo, a challenging environment as the company navigated macroeconomic uncertainty and geopolitical tensions. And now, with the specter of labor action looming,
it's going to put travel plans for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Canadians at risk.
One more thing for Canada's largest airline to weather. Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
A major railway deal is in the works in the U.S. Union Pacific wants to buy Norfolk Southern for $85 billion. The proposed merger would create America's first transcontinental freight rail operator with more than 80,000 kilometers of track in 43 states and connections to ports on both coasts. The merger still needs federal approval. Ahead, Russian airstrikes hit a Ukrainian prison as the U.S. president sets a new deadline for a ceasefire. Emergency crews are searching for people trapped by flooding in Beijing. A year's worth of rain has fallen on the Chinese capital in less than a week. The floods have killed at least 30 people, forced more than 80,000 others from their homes, damaged roads and bridges, and cut power to over 130 surrounding villages. Ukraine says Russia's relentless airstrikes have killed another 27 people across the country. That includes a glide bomb attack on a Ukrainian prison. 4 bombs hit around midnight, destroying the dining hall and administrative areas. At least 17 people were killed and 82 others injured. The perimeter of the prison was not damaged, and there's no threat of anyone escaping. Russia denies it is targeting civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke to Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney today and thanked him for Canada's support. They again discussed the need to strengthen Ukraine's air defenses and increase funding for joint drone production. And the American President Donald Trump now says Russia has until August 8th to reach a ceasefire deal with Ukraine or face secondary sanctions. Wine and dine next, who former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been spotted with. Jubilation in London today. Soccer fans packed the streets to celebrate England's women's soccer team winning the European Championship. At least 65,000 supporters turned out for the victory parade. The Lionesses beat Spain in a nail-biting final, revenge for Spain's victory over England in the 2023 World Cup final. The national women's rugby team is gearing up for their last match in Canada before competing at the World Cup in England next month. On Friday, Canada will face off against the United States in Ottawa, and some players say the ongoing trade war with the U.S. has added new meaning to the game.
I like playing the U.S. because it brings this vibe of oh, there's a rivalry between the two.
Yeah, we love to hear the extra significance to the fans and all the supporters with what's going on right now outside of rugby.
Our performance has been kind of consistently the best, and so for us, we're just excited to showcase that on Friday and to put a good show for Canadians.
In May, the Canadian women's team defeated the U.S. to win bronze at the HSBC Sevens World Championship. Well, no matter what you think of politics and politicians, they are entitled to a private life, and what they do when they leave office depends on the person. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has largely dropped off the radar, apart from posting a few photos with his kids. Now, as Mike Armstrong reports, he's making headlines again because of who he's been spotted with.
For those who aren't glued to Facebook or who don't follow tabloids, you may be missing the extracurricular activities of our former Prime Minister. Well, he's been busy with some post-Parliament pursuits that are raising eyebrows.
I do know who that is, yes.
I hope so.
Yes.
Is that Trudeau?
It is.
Absolutely awesome.
Oh, that's a nice reaction. Now, admittedly, we did get some less gracious responses, but for the most part, these photos posted by Justin Trudeau to social media Monday were met with positivity. They were taken on a recent trip to the Swiss Alps, mountain climbing with his eldest son.
Oh my gosh. Freedom.
That's what you think of right away?
Yeah.
I think it's nice he's doing a bonding activity with his son while he's got his free time. I mean, he's retired.
There you go.
Really nice views as well. Yeah.
It's quite a labor of love to learn that art in a way and to be able to do it, so.
Nice thing to share with your son?
I'd say so.
Now, the second part of this experiment was Trudeau again out for dinner this time with a guest.
With Katy Perry?
Yeah.
Oh,
beep. Oh, so no swearing.
Oh,
no, I'm just joking.
Darn.
The tabloid TMZ posted a short video Tuesday morning of the former Prime Minister out for dinner with pop star Katy Perry. It was at this restaurant in Montreal. According to the chef, lobster and lamb were on the menu. Whether it was romantic or not isn't known.
Uh-oh. Who is this?
It's Katy Perry, but you don't have to uh-oh.
Well.
They're both single. It's okay.
Well, it's true. It's true.
It's not hurting anyone.
No, I think it's just people were shocked because you would never picture the two of them in a room together until
Now, whatever the reason behind the dinner, it's made news around the world. And those who hoped to hear less about the former Prime Minister in retirement, and again, we met those people.
Yeah, I never liked them too much, but
may be disappointed. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Air Canada showcases Marmora, Ontario, Seychelles, BC, and Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Please keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to Global National at globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.